go. So 3, 2, and 1. Mr. Assemblyman, Mr. Former Mayor, welcome back. Brent Jacobson.
Thank you.
Mayor's Monday here at WSAU, WSAU.com. Again, you have resigned the post in Mosinee. You are beyond ready to get down to Madison. I'm sure you were probably, was this a career change, or is this the next thing on Brent Jacobson's governmental bucket list?
It really wasn't. I joke with people a year ago at this time. I actually said this around Thanksgiving. A little over a year ago at this time, I think the biggest thing on my mind was, do I buy a new smoker before Thanksgiving turkey, or should I just let the turkey destroy this one and then start fresh?
Yeah.
And I guess that's, I always have found it interesting to reflect at the end of the year on New Year's Eve, sit down when everything's finally quiet and reflect on the past year, but also think about the fascination of you never really know what the next 365 days has in store for you. You really don't. Is it going to be a boring year? Is something tragic going to happen? You pray not. Are you going to be surprised by whatever? And really, that's where 2025 went, or 2024 went for me. And I had no idea. I had no thought at that particular time, a little over a year ago, of getting into running for the state legislature again. It really transpired shortly after that, because I'll be honest with you, I told people this when I was campaigning for the state legislature, that I would have almost 10 years, or I would have 10 years in as mayor if I finished this last term I was on. I'd been on the county board. I was really getting ready after, I'd been through 2 state races, really getting ready to just sort of hang it up, enjoy my private sector job, enjoy, my time with my family. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and just, I felt I had done a lot in local government service and was ready to hang it up. So this was certainly not something on the bucket list, but I was really disappointed in what had transpired with the maps that unraveled, what transpired with our Supreme Court. And I thought that if I always look for ways that I can get involved, whether that's helping another candidate, running for office, just being an outspoken voice, how can I get involved? And I saw this as, we need to put, if Tony Evers, and the state Supreme Court are going to give us these new maps, let's put the best team on the field, really. And I thought, hey, if somebody else more qualified steps up and says, I really want to do this, I probably wouldn't run. But, that didn't happen. And I stepped up because I had this experience in local government. I had this experience as a business owner in the private sector. And, I really thought that I could do good for central Wisconsin, which is why I ran. So no, this wasn't something on the bucket list by any means. So all of a sudden 2024 rolls around and I'm running for state office, win a primary, win a general election, then find out I've got another child on the way coming in May. So I'm really, I just want the next few days to have nothing happen because I feel enough has happened in 2024 that I never expected a year ago. So you just don't know what that year is going to bring.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up seeing the Packers end up winning a Super Bowl, and that'll be a great way to start your year.
Great. I mean, I'm just a diehard Packer fan, and you always feel good when you find out they've clinched a playoff berth, because it's like, yes, I have something to do in January, because those. In my lifetime, it's been few and far between. I know a few years ago, I think it was the year McCarthy was sort of booted. Well, not sort of, but booted. That we didn't make the playoffs. And, I have nothing to really watch in January. So I don't get into basketball. I'm not a hockey guy. I just... NFL football is what I watch. And, if you have your team in long enough... now with the Super Bowl in February, then you sort of pray for an early spring. I almost feel like I get that sense of spring is coming right after the Super Bowl's over. I'm like, we're not too much further, to turn the corner here to golf season and, putting brats on the grill and all that fun stuff.
Well, coming from a Jaguars fan, enjoy it because yes, when
Oh my gosh.
when those playoff runs are few and far between, it gets extremely long.
Or a Bears fan.
Yeah, that too.
I'm sorry, but that was just tough. The last few minutes were tough to watch. Even
That Thursday night
if
game
you don't
was
like
tough.
the Bears.
Exactly.
I mean, I could throw the ball up in the air and hope somebody catches it. I mean, if that's all you need to do,
Exactly.
without targeting anybody in particular.
Without
So,
target, yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
we're doing okay with the Packers. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, as far as leaving the city of Mosinee, then I would just from again, I haven't been here. I've almost been here for your entire tenure. Not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite. Hard to believe it's been 7+ years here for me. Just the development that I've seen in the city of Mosinee driving through in the last 7 years, I would say you're on a pretty good trajectory. And combine that with what you told me a couple of years ago, where Mosinee's population was actually outpacing the growth of Marathon County as well. I would say you're on a pretty good upward trajectory there after as you leave office.
Yeah, we've done a lot of good stuff. I really felt good as I'm leaving with the position we're in at the city. And, I would love to stay, but I don't believe in serving at 2 levels of government. I felt the city was in a very good place, and I felt it was an appropriate time for me to turn my focus to the new job that the 87th Assembly District's entrusted me with, and that's going to require my undivided attention. So I felt it was a good time, even though I'm leaving a little bit early, to make that transition. And I felt good about where I was leaving the city. Over the last almost 10 years I've been there, to see the development we've had, and that's really not all on me. That's just a great partnership with my city council, with stakeholders within the community to get stuff done. We've transformed our downtown, adding the brewery, adding a 4-story hotel, cleaning up some of our facades and our businesses. And then you look at our business park, multiple expansions out there, and new additions out there in the time I've been there. We cleaned up a lot of the streets early in my tenure out there as well to make it more attractive. And then we've done this economic development, and then it's what's next? What's the future hold? Well, you got to have resources to work with, and you also want to keep your property taxes down. And I feel we're leaving the city in a great place because you look at our business park, for instance, we're going to be closing that tax increment district very soon, if not early. And that's going to bring in a whole new source of revenue to the general fund, and also a whole new source of revenue to the other taxing entity partners, school district, county, technical college. And that was the goal. You successfully run a TIF, you return more money back to the taxpayers for that sacrifice you've made. So the city's going to have that coming in. We're probably also negotiating the buyout of our cell phone tower leases on some of our water towers. That is going to bring in north of 7 figures to the city general fund. Actually, probably through the utility, because it's actually the utility's money, but the utility owes the general fund based on how it was managed in the past. Nonetheless, these are new sources of revenue coming into the city that are going to give the next mayor and the city council the opportunity to, I hope, provide property tax relief because it's long overdue. But we also have some other areas where there's still demand for investment in public safety. We've also sort of limped along on some street projects. I understand that, but they're expensive, that are overdue. So, money is always needed in different places, but I hope the goal of the next mayor and council will be some property tax relief with these new sources of revenue that come in.
Yeah, and obviously those sources of revenue aren't, a be-all, end-all, or aren't going to fix everything. Your biggest source of revenue is the taxpayers, but any time that you can put a little more money back there, that there's chances are that might come back to the city in one way or another. Either residents will say, okay, your taxes are lower there, maybe I'll consider moving to Mosinee, or you'll end up bringing in a little more revenue at the local shops as well, because people have an extra $20 to spend on coffee or tea, as you are drinking here today. There are ways that can come back to the city in one form or another.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's one thing people look at, right, as they're going to move into your community is, okay, what are the property taxes going to be like here? And also, what are your water and sewer rates going to be like here? Because, I've heard, for instance, you look at I had a friend who moved from Wausau to Rim Mountain this past year. They just wanted to downsize, I think, but I was out speaking with him, and I said, well, did any bites on the house yet? And he said, yeah, we had a couple come through. They love the house but hate the property taxes. So, that does matter, and it just, it's frustrating in government when you have some people that think, well, oh, good, we have a year with extra money, or oh, good, we have a surplus. We're dealing with that at the state right now, and then the first thing on their mind is, well, how can we spend it? Remember, that is the taxpayer's money. It got there from the taxpayer. If you've overpaid, the money should come back to the taxpayer. So, I really hope that that's going to be a focus of Mosinee. But I do know they're strapped for cash and have other things to address. But property tax relief, I hope, will be a focus. We've left them in a good place to do that. And then, as I mentioned, at the state level, we got a large surplus.
Oh, of course.
Coming into the end of this biennial budget that the legislature is going to have to figure out what they want to do with. You got the governor on one hand, spend it all. You've got the Republican caucus that would like to look at some property tax relief. Or, I'm sorry, not property tax, but would like to look at some tax relief, specifically on the income tax side and on the retirement income tax side.
So, and that being said, obviously, that's what you're walking into.
Yeah.
Right now. Believe it or not, there are Democrats in Madison. You're going to have some pushback here. My question for that is, how do you find balance and say maybe we can spend a little for road work or something like that everybody uses, spend a little here, and then send the rest back to the taxpayers? How do you find a way to get that conversation going and maybe strike some kind of balance if you need to? Because obviously, in negotiations, it's not going to be one side gets everything that they want all the time.
Well, certainly in the legislature, Democrats are welcome to come across the aisle to common sense and join us on those issues. But we do still have, although smaller, we do still have majorities in the Assembly and the Senate to get that budget through to the governor. The problem is it's an appropriations bill where the governor has a line item veto power. And in fact, probably the strongest one in the United States.
No doubt.
And it's going to take, if the governor wants his party to be successful going forward come 2 years, maybe he wants to consider actually joining us on some of these tax cuts that we're proposing, because that's affecting a lot of people. They come home, they're tired, they're paying way more than they used to maintain a living, and they like to get some of their money back that they gave the state that the state shouldn't need. The governor's just going to have to decide whether he wants to negotiate with us on that or not. And, the governor's big thing coming from public education is funding public education. He always thinks that if you just throw more money at the problem, that solves everything. Well, we've seen that that's not the case. And so I think what the governor is going to have to consider is whether he wants to rethink the little gotcha trick that he pulled in the last state budget with his veto pen, crossing out a digit here and a period here, or whatever he did, to perpetually continue to increase state aid for school districts for the next 400 years. That's not being genuine in negotiation. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. And I think he's really going to have to consider that this time around, meaning he's going to have to give on some tax cuts that we want.
Absolutely. And as far as those tax cuts go, in Brent Jacobson's world, if he is President Pro Temp of the Assembly.
Which I'm not.
Which you are
I
not.
am a freshman newbie.
You are a freshman newbie. But, a guy can dream. Where would you like to see that cut line put? Would you like to see, 5% cut, 10% cut? What is your dream?
Well, we're going to have that discussion as a caucus, because remember, I'm one guy of 99 in the Assembly, one of 54 in our Assembly caucus. And that's something that, with a very slim majority, we're gonna have to be a team on this. And we're gonna have to take everybody's input and come up with, and that's exactly what the speaker does, to be quite honest with you. He asks for feedback. Okay, where are we at on feelings with tax cuts? So I think what you're gonna see, at least coming from the Assembly side, if I had to guess, is a look at income tax cuts in the brackets, but probably also a focus on retirement, bringing back the retirement income tax exemption that we had, that was produced last session and vetoed by the governor. I have no idea why. But that's important because you have people who work their whole life and now they're coming into trying to survive and enjoy retirement in a different world where things cost a lot more, and find out that maybe they don't have as much as they had hoped. So if we can give them a tax break for the seniors that are coming into retirement, I think it's a fantastic idea to bring back, and I think the governor should consider that. But I think you're also going to see probably a focus on cuts in the income tax brackets. I know on the Senate side, they have an interest in focusing on that tax cut in the second highest bracket, which, by the way, if you're married filing jointly, is like income between 33 some thousand dollars and like 400 something thousand dollars. That's called middle class. Okay. A lot of people fall in that range, and if you can give them a tax break, again, it's more money going back into the economy or saving for retirement or whatever they want to do with it. So I again, it's going to be a conversation amongst our caucus, but you're going to see that roll out pretty quick here as we get into the discussion of the biggest appropriations bill of the session, which will be the state budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, all I'm saying is the World Cup is coming to the United States in 2 years. If I can have more money to fly and see the United States play somewhere, I would absolutely love that. So
yeah. We're not close enough to retirement yet to get the income tax exemption.
That's exactly it. I am not close enough to retirement yet.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, Brent, we appreciate the time. Again, congratulations on the new addition to the family. Congratulations on the new gig. We'll look forward to seeing what happens come, is it January 6th? You said you have to report and start filling out the paperwork?
Yep, January 6th is Inauguration Day. If you're interested in the process, come down and see the state capitol. It's the people's house, and we have overflow seating, I think. If you can't, you don't have a ticket for the chamber. So come down and see the process, meet your legislator. So.
Indeed. And again, good luck filling out all that paperwork as well. I'm sure it's just like a new job, right? The W-2 and the direct deposit. Yeah.
All that fun stuff. Yeah.
Again, congratulations. We'll look forward to chatting again as you represent Central Wisconsin down in Madison.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.